All right. Hello, everyone. Today's Thursday, November 5th, and this has been the most rescheduled Casady Technology Workshop of all time. And I'm so thankful that you're here because this is timely and relevant. And I'm glad we're persevering despite frustration and rescheduling. So our plan today was to talk about Jamboard a little bit. And one of the things for you to be thinking about, we can talk about at the end, is what we want to talk about next and when we might want to do that. I was visiting with Jonas about some of the new features in Google Meet, which includes polling and Q&A inside the Meet, and also the breakout rooms. However, I know we've got folks doing Zoom, but it might be interesting to see what it looks like in Google Meet, even if you're doing Zoom. So anyway, we can think about what we would like to talk about next, and then if we want to still skip a week, or since we were changed up with our schedule or whatever, I'm fine if we wanted to go next week. So thank you all for coming on what is effectively Friday, since we're off tomorrow. So yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and present my screen, and I have, I think, put into the calendar invitation. Let me make sure. Yes, a link to this slideshow. So this slideshow, I have added a couple new things, but basically has a link to a Jamboard, which I thought we might just kind of initially start with after a couple ideas. And then I watched a webinar from Google Education. It's been about 3 weeks now, which also is a really good introduction overview. So just to start, Jamboard is really two things. We don't have the physical Jamboard, but they have made 55-inch TVs into digital whiteboards, basically kind of like the Promethean televisions that we had in the math department for a little while that we were playing with and trying. So they're touch interactive, and it's a physical board that you can have. And that'd be great if we could have that, but I think they're pretty expensive. And so what we have access to is the software of that, which works on multiple devices. And when we compare this to, say, a Google slideshow, I think that, especially if students would have a stylus. So for instance, with sixth graders this year, they've all got iPads. And so I've done a little bit with them with Jamboard, and there's another tool that I've used as well. It's kind of cumbersome to use your mouse or your trackpad to write, but you can put different kinds of text on the screen. You can move them around, and it has this synchronous collaboration that says up to 50 people can work on at once, but that's really more than they recommend in terms of the number of people. But it could be, it can be your whole class if you've got, let's say less than 20 students for sure. I have not added the Google Docs and Sheets to the Jam, but it is integrated in right to Google Meet, and it's part of Google G Suite or the Google suite of tools. And so collaborating with different devices, tablets, phones, computers, and just being able to write real quickly, as well as kind of use it as a bulletin board where you have boards and stuff up. So here's what I thought we might do, is actually learn about Jamboard by using Jamboard. So I have created a Jamboard for us, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this link and I'm going to put it into the chat of our Meet, and then you should be able to click on that and go to the Jamboard. So here's the link. I have already shared it with everybody from Casady, and for the benefit of the recording, I'm going to keep sharing my screen so the Jamboard will be recorded. So you can create Jamboards multiple ways. Inside Google Drive, just like you would create a new document or a new spreadsheet or slideshow, you can go there, and underneath More, it has the option for Jamboard. If you're using Google Meet, you can go just in the same place where you go to start recording. You would tap your three dots there in the corner, and then you can create a Jamboard right there. If you do, it will be immediately shared with everybody who is in your meeting, which is good. What I did with this one is I just shared it and I said everyone at Casady can edit it. The initial sharing of a Jamboard is to just have students and other participants view it. So we will be kind of doing the full, hey, everyone can edit it today, which I've done now with my 6th graders. But this can also just be something that you use to write, just like you would on a board. I think probably using an iPad with a stylus is gonna be a little more successful than mouse or trackpad. But up here at the top of the Jamboard, and it looks like Emily and Sarah have joined. And Jonas, if you can see the link in your Meet, we've got the participants at the top on the right side of the on the right side of your screen. Or I guess if you click on the top, there's the people that has a 5 by it that for how many people, and then right next to that is the chat. And I do have that turned on. One of the new things with Google Meet is you, as the host or the teacher, you can very readily turn that off if you don't want your students to have access to chat inside. And so, yeah, if you'll click that link, Jonas, then it'll open a new tab and you should be able to join the Jamboard that we have.
Okay, I am, believe it or not, clicking that link.
Okay.
And
is it not? It's not popping up in a new window for you?
It may be. It may be, and I'm just not seeing it. But I do see something. No, not really.
Let me go ahead and put it in one more time.
Okay, thank you.
So your arrow should change into a hand, and then if you left click on that, it should try to open another window.
It's not really. The arrow did not change into a hand. There is a hand, but it's probably someone else's.
Okay, and this is actually part of the challenge of, what we'll do with students, and with my 5th graders having Chromebooks and small screen Chromebooks at that, it really is challenging using multiple tabs and going to multiple places at the same time. Jonas, why don't you create another tab on your computer and then go back to the Meet and try to click on it one more time. Oh, did we lose him? He closed the Meet. All right. We have successfully lost him entirely. All right, there he is. He's back.
Was that what you were asking me to do? I think I jumped the gun.
It's okay. No, we want to leave that tab open. So I was just saying to create a new one. Go ahead and, now that you've opened it again, though, go ahead and try. Click on the chat window, and then let me paste. I'll paste it in. I don't think the chat has the history. So when that happens, when a student leaves and comes back and I think Zoom may be different, but with the Google Meet, you have to actually put the link in again. Okay. So go ahead and click that and see if that's more successful re-entering.
No.
It's not. Okay. All right. Well, Jonas will need to kind of watch as we're doing this. I'm still sharing my screen, so hopefully you'll be able to see. At the very top of the Jamboard, I've already created some slides for you all. So Sarah, you have slide 2. And Emily, you have slide 3. If you all would like to advance to your slides, Jonas, I will be your writer. So this is a little introduction of highlights and lowlights of Upper Division remote learning so far. So I'll draw for you. So Jonas, you actually already mentioned before students exceeding expectations. So one of the things that you'll notice if you end up using different devices is that when you're on a computer, you have the ability to add a text box. When you're on an iPad, you can and you can draw and erase, and you can add sticky notes. When you are on a iPad, for some reason, you don't have the text box option. You just do on the computer. So Jonas, any lowlights for remote learning so far?
Technological challenges, just hardware, internet crashes, things like that, technical problems of that nature,
There you go. Um,
connectivity,
yep.
infrastructure, things of that sort.
Okay, so and actually sticky notes are kind of good probably for this kind of brainstorm. We can simultaneously see what everybody is doing in our Jamboard on each one of our slides that we have. When you create a Jamboard that you're going to have students use, you might want to do what I've done today and create them in advance. And once you've created one, you can go up to the 3 dots in the corner and choose to duplicate. So I just made one today, and then I duplicated it about 5 times. Because I set it up like I wanted. I put the little graphics on there and I drew a bar in the middle, and then I went ahead and duplicated it for students. I have found using, for instance, a slideshow. You all are too. We're finishing the first trimester, so I'm about to get a new group of 5th and 6th grade students in my media literacy classes. And I'm going to do the same introductory lesson that we did last year, we did at the beginning of the semester. And I did it in a workshop this summer where I make one slideshow and I give every student their own slide. And I tell them I want them to make an identity collage so I learn about them, but they're going to go ahead and put it on their slide. Rather than making it blank and they create a slide, I've found it to work pretty slick if I've already just made a slide for them and put their name on it. So they find their slide, they go and work on it. And so that's kind of what I have modeled here as well. You don't have to, but anyway, sometimes that just saves time because students don't have to bumble around and make slides and step on each other. It's just easier if they've already got their slide, they go to it. We did a partner activity a couple weeks ago with my 6th graders where I was having them brainstorm, and I made the slides and I just numbered them. And so they were in groups and they just had to go to their group. And that way we didn't have to worry about whose name was going on it, but the groups were numbered, 1 through 6 or whatever. And so that they went to their slide and they worked on that. So, all right. So yes, we've got Emily adding some graphics there and resizing them. And she's got a sticky note on hers.
Is there any way for me to get in easily, or?
So let's try it a different way. I'm going to go ahead and
Jonas, I shared it with you. So check your email.
There you go. Good suggestion. That's actually what I was gonna to email it. So
okay, thanks.
The Jamboard, and I'll click up here in the corner of it, has the same kind of sharing rights as another type of Google document, a Google Doc, a Google Sheet, a Google slideshow. And so actually, when I was doing this with students as well, I used that technique of just making the entire Jamboard editable by anybody at school. Nobody's discovering this unless you're giving them the link. So when you are sharing a Jamboard inside a Google Meet, it's going to automatically take care of that sharing for you. But I honestly think this is pretty easy too. Rather than, you could add, I think, the name of your Google Classroom, or you could add individual students. But I think just saying everybody at Casady in our domain can edit it. No one is going to be stumbling upon this link sort of by happenstance or by accident. One thing to keep in mind is that after you have used it in class, you could go ahead and change it so that it's not editable by everyone. It's viewable, but I don't know that that's going to be an issue. But anyway, that was the technique that I used. Was I just said anyone at our school can edit it, and then I just, like I did today, put the link into the Google Meet. We've done some practice remote learning in my classes, and we played with Jamboard. So I would, that was my first time to actually experiment with it with students, and You know, I don't know. I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around also the capability of it. I do think that it's basically a place to be able to, you know, brainstorm and share ideas, but have visibility, you know, across across all the slides at once. So there's a lot here that you could still do in a slideshow. So the main thing is writing directly on the board. Like everything else we're doing here in terms of copying and pasting pictures and drawing shapes, and you know, it's those things you can do on a slideshow. I think the sticky note feature is different because I don't think there's a sticky note in the Google Slides, but being able to directly write on the board is the main thing. So questions or comments that you all have so far from what we've kind of talked about? Okay, I'm going to go ahead.
Wes?
Yep, go ahead.
You want to come talk on mine? Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
That's all right. The hazards of multiple mics in the same room, but we'll do it. Go ahead.
So I actually had watched a Google thing, and I ended up using Jamboard twice in my senior class this week. And actually, I was really impressed. I found that the students, if you gave them kind of a concrete task, our first assignment was literally playing around in with the technology itself, and so I gave them a list of things that they needed to do. But I was really impressed with how creative and how intuitive it is for some of our students. And then I gave I tried out the new Google Meets feature and broke kids into breakout groups today, and each breakout group had a slide that they used, and we created collaboratively, each group created using Post-it notes and things like that, a series of questions, and then we went through as a class and evaluated those questions to add to a project that I'm having them do right now.
Awesome. That is fantastic. Well, yeah, I think the idea of having students trying to make their thinking visible and using sticky notes, but those other creative tools that are in there, whether they wanted to sketch. I had students, I'll show you, I think I have a copy of it, but we were talking about the country of Mexico, and we're trying to just build some knowledge about Mexico's more than, you know, tacos and border walls and whatever kinds of things, you know, fifth graders have heard about Mexico so far. But it was really neat to be able to see them, you know, creating it live and what they were making, and then also being able to use the drawing tools as well. Cool. Anything else?
I would add to that the new iOS update for the iPads has given a lot more functionality with the Apple Pencil. So now, like when I brought up the sticky notes, one of the features you can do with the Apple Pencil is you can just write and it will translate that into text for you. So almost all of the sticky notes, once I got it working on my iPad, I was just writing and it was converting that into font for me. That's
Super
really
cool.
nice.
That's awesome. Is Will delivering some pizza to you there, Jonas?
Busted. I don't know. Maybe if I'm lucky. I was sorry for my apparent distraction.
That's okay. Awesome. Well, let me go ahead and show you all there's just a couple slides I have about some of the features in terms of what it can do and its limits and things like that. And then I'll show you there's another whiteboarding tool that I had used, and then we can kind of see what questions we have and what else we want to do. This slide 3 of the slideshow has a link to an October 21st webinar that was about 30 minutes long. This particular group that's called Fried Technology, I guess, is under contract with Google Education to do a series of different webinars. And so this one was focused on Google Jamboard and just kind of covered features, but it was good. It was short, and if you want to, you can go ahead and check that out. I think probably most of what they talked about in there was a panel of 3 different teachers that were in there, but anyway, I watched that as part of my homework in advance of doing this session, so I'd hopefully know a little bit more. I definitely think it lends itself well for math as far as handwritten work, and so you could potentially, be using a Jamboard, giving each student, their own space to be able to write, just like they had a slate, at their desk, or their paper at their desk or whatever, because you can go ahead and save this as students are at the end of class or periodically, you can go down and save. In fact, that's something probably worth maybe even jumping out of here and mentioning. So in our Jamboard, when I go up here to the 3 dots at the top in the upper right corner beside share, I can see the 3 of you that are in our Jamboard, but then I have options of downloading as a PDF and saving a frame as an image. So one of the things that you might consider is having each student or group, if they're going to work in partners or whatever, they could have their team slide, and then you can download as a PDF periodically in the class, for instance, if they were going to be doing different things, because it's really easy for them to clear the frame. There's just a button. And in fact, this is an important thing to tell kids, like they can erase each other's stuff. And so it's important for them to be in their space and be respectful of other, classmates and teammates. And for us as teachers, you don't necessarily need to say this to them out loud. But right now, there's no documentation in terms of a revision history of who did what. They're hoping that will be added as a feature, but like with a Google Doc or, slide or whatever, you can see who did what in terms of their login, and you can go back in time. Right now, you can't in Jamboard. So that's just an important thing to say, hey guys, everyone has equal access to this document to erase or add. So please make sure, and you might not even use that clear frame, but it's right there in the upper left corner to be able to just wipe out everything that somebody has done. And if you do, so like I'm going to go over to my slide, which I haven't put anything on, but slide 5. I'm going to click clear frame. I can undo that right away, but I don't think you could undo it if I, erased your stuff. And so anyway, that's something to be aware of. Emily, was that a problem today when you guys were doing that, as far as the kids stepping on each other or having any trouble with that? Or did that seem to work okay because you had everybody kind of already in their group had a slide or whatever?
Well, so one of the things I've been having students do within the Jamboard as well is leaving Post-it notes and comments on one another, using kind of the Post-it notes as a comment, but they have to add their initials to it. And so I found if you incentivize that way, I can double check and see, one, that everyone's working, but also, know that no one's pulling any, tricky business.
Yeah. And that's a nice idea, because there are very, big limits in terms of colors and stuff like that. There's only 5 colors to the sticky notes.
Right.
So you can come up with your own scheme if you would want of what kind of comment or something. But I like the initials idea because that gives the attribution and adds that. So good.
Well, and one of the things, the first assignment that we had was really kind of playing around. I had watched that Fried Education thing because I had signed up when you sent us those emails about that. I finally got around to watching it. And that was a really helpful, really short video for the most part. And yeah, I had lost my train of thought. Sorry.
That's okay. No, but that's great that you were using initials and having the kids, you were adding that layer of accountability and some documentation of kind of who had done what. So I think that's great. In that Fried Technology presentation, they said that even though the theoretical limits are greater, they were finding about 20 editors at once was about good. So, I mean, that's about that's probably class size or greater. They recommended, and maybe it is a hard limit right now of 20 frames, which are like slides. But as that last piece says on number 4, editing rights are all or nothing. You don't have the ability to just let students edit slide 3 or something. But that's okay. I think that with when I've done that activity with Google Slides where we're all editing the same one, it's with the slides you have the editing history, and we in one case had to restore, and lost some edits that someone had done. But anyway, this is still kind of in its infancy, but it's more mature than just a beta product or something, because now it's fully within the Google Suite, and like I said, it's immediately inside the Google Meet, so that you could do that quickly, or students could as well. In terms of tips, you want to make sure that you change back to the pointer when you want to interact with objects. So for instance, I'm going to go back to our Jamboard here, and both Emily and Sarah have added, and Jonas has got pictures on there too. Look at that. Whenever you want to interact with an object like a sticky note or an image, then you want to be selecting this third object so that you can not be writing, basically, and then you can move or change it. In terms of interacting, so we've got a lovely Napoleon Bonaparte here on Jonas's slide. You can go to the handles to be able to stretch the object. The upper left corner is the rotation, and then the upper right corner, 3 dots, is where you have the deletion, the deletion, duplication, and then you can change the order of where that is falling if you're going to be overlapping. It'd be interesting, maybe, I don't know, I could consider doing the initial project with students as a slideshow here in Jamboard, but I don't know. I think I really do like with the slides, having the documentation of, who's done what and contributed what, and the revision history to go back in time. I really think this is it lends itself really well to a live class and a live interaction. But if you would be doing a lesson activity that's more asynchronous, so students are going to be working on it outside of live class, I kind of think a slideshow, I don't know, would seems like it would be better still at this time. But there's no reason you couldn't have them continue to edit and work on a Jamboard. It's just there's less documentation about who's done what, and less ability to undo or those kinds of things. In terms of other tips, I've already shared the tip 2, creating the Jam in advance that has some pre-made frame content. I think is a good tip, even if you're just going to number them so that students are going to have a number and a slide to go to for their group or whatever. The app offers more features than the actual web does. And have you had a chance, Emily, to play with the auto draw features at all? Okay, so that was we got very distracted with the auto draw. In fact, I'm trying to see if I've got a link to where I saved. I don't know that I did. Our lovely downloads folder with everything. My students were, so you can, on the iPad, it uses artificial intelligence to try to, let me see if I can pull up mine. We'll go to my
Sorry.
your mic on. That's okay. So I'll go to my recents and see. This is still so new that when you're in Google Drive and you're trying to search by file type, you can't actually select Jamboard. Jamboard is here in Google Drive. When you go to New, More, Google Jamboard is there, but you can't search Google Drive by the file type. So it's been a while, and I don't know if I remember what I called. There it is. Okay, this was planning. So this was the 6th grade. We did a collaborative challenge in Minecraft, and I was having, this is just where kids were drawing. I think I did it. I don't know. I don't know if I can find it readily. Anyway, they played quite a bit with the auto draw. So there's more features, but I don't know. I don't know that functionally that's that big of a deal. But it's kind of cool. I mean, it guesses, oh, you're drawing a dog, and then it draws a really nice icon of a dog. So anyway, that's the main thing that is in the Android and iPhone app. I mentioned no revision training history. It is neat to be able to see the live editors and move between the slides when you are viewing it. And so if I click in the center here on frame 4 of 7, you can see who's editing what right above that slide.
Oh.
And I think that may be different than what you can get with Google Slides. So I can see that Sarah and Emily are on slide 2 right now, looking at Sarah's slide. Now Emily just moved over to slide 3. Now she's on slide 4 with Jonas. So that's cool, as far as being able to see where your students are and where they're working. And I think that's pretty much it for the tips. I have played this week with a new tool that I learned about called whiteboard.fi. This one is made in Finland by someone. I don't know if it's the government that sponsored it. I think that probably Jamboard is the best one to play with right now, since it's built right into Google and to Meets. But this is pretty cool. You don't have to have a login or anything. What you do, I'll show you an example of one of the ones that we created. So this was just, I was having the kids kind of share what they thought of when we said Mexico, and then we talked about it. And it saves it as a saves it as a PDF. And so yeah. The way that the website works is you just click on new class and you put your name. And if you wanted to, I didn't do this. They have a waiting room lobby and a manual save. Says that it doesn't save automatically. All I did was I put my name in. I said create a new class, and then actually, if you want to, for grins, I will put this into the chat. You can click on it. As you join that, you click that link. It'll ask you for your name. I require the kids to use their real name. And then on this single page, I'm able to see everybody's slate, everybody's whiteboard, and then I can see what people are drawing live. So if people didn't have Google Jamboard available, I guess, it's another tool. Anyway, I was playing with that, and so if you'd like to draw what you think of when I say Mexico, you can go ahead and do that. It doesn't have an app. It doesn't have as many features. It's not built right in. But anyway, it was another whiteboard tool that I was kind of playing with just to kind of see how that worked. The same issue as Jamboard is there, where students are going to have to click the link in order to get to it, and it's just kind of laid out a little bit differently. But anyway, as if we needed more tools. But I have not honestly done a lot myself with online whiteboards. So I'm curious. I was curious to see what the features of it were, and it was interesting that it's completely free and doesn't require anybody to log in. And but it has the same kind of features as far as being able to add different elements. And I don't know, it may have more choices actually there at the top in the toolbar. That's about all I have prepared and having. Any questions or other thoughts from your experiences, Emily, or anyone else using this so far, and kind of what you're thinking about doing next with it, or the kind of lessons you're thinking about using it with?
Well, just like a regular whiteboard, I think it works really well as a brainstorming tool for students.
Right.
And I really liked kind of separating, using them as groups instead of, it's a little bit more low pressure. And they really enjoy like the design elements. If you have a moment, I can probably share with you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. If you want to share your screen and show a little bit of what you did, that'd be great. Sarah, while Emily's pulling that up, what have you done remote learning wise as far as your kids turning stuff in? Have they been doing some stuff by paper and taking photos and sending it in, or how are you having them get you work?
In anticipation of this kind of problem, I have been making all of my kids submit assignments via Google Classroom. So it was, I explained it to them. This is the reason why we're doing it. Some of them, I get in a lot of different forms. Kids who just submit images, kids who take images and drop them into Google Docs, kids who have printers at home that will scan PDFs. So I get all types of images that way. But, it's one of those things where I explained at the beginning of the year, who knows, we could be going in and out. If we just always submit our assignments this way, we just, nothing about the assignment submission changes with us going remote.
Yeah, that's great. I was just helping Jill Rumbaugh, who's my neighbor next door, is teaching our 7th grade math or 6th grade math, with the Google Classroom being able to directly write on the PDF. And I don't know, have you all been playing with that inside Classroom? Because that was
all
the
right,
fact.
So that means that you should be able to. Yeah, we'll see. Stop screen sharing up there.
I have annotated.
I have we still have
The spiral of echoes.
Okay, so I have annotated before, but only on my desktop, and that process is a pain in the butt. I guess I would have to do that all on my iPad. Which
in the Google Classroom app is amazing if you just have a PDF, because you can go with like 3 taps into writing on the PDF and then tapping to send it in, and it saves it and shares it right up without a separate app or anything. So I think I made a video I can send you a link to, because if kids have iPads or tablets that have Google Classroom, that is a quick way that they can write directly on a spreadsheet, or I'm sorry, on a PDF.
Well, I've had a handful of kids who it's just my seniors. For whatever reason, I've got 4 seniors who are doing everything on iPads. They got iPads and statuses, and I think they're thinking ahead, like this is what they're going to do in college. So they just end up using GoodNotes and then export their assignments that way as PDFs and submit it, which is totally fine. GoodNotes, Notability, it's all the same thing.
Yeah, multiple ways. Okay, so sorry to take a skip there, but that was good. So Emily, you want to share one more time real quick and comment on that? Sarah's muted, so you can probably unmute.
Okay. So this is
Your screen share stopped though, so you have to screen share again.
all right. Let's see. It takes a while for it to load because I had them. One of the things that I had them do is it was just a kind of getting to know the tool, and so I had them do their play around with the background. They had to draw something, put their initials on with the using kind of the paintbrush or whatever tool.
Yeah.
Put a picture of their favorite animal, their favorite food, and then respond to some of the reading questions and put Post-it notes there. And then they had to find a way to comment on the other individuals. And some of my students got really creative with it. As you can see, they really enjoyed kind of the interactive. I made my own one too, going back to show them. And then I found out, for example, that Conway is really into penguins.
Well, that's really into penguins. Those are even different pictures. Yeah.
So how did you manage the interactive part? Did they use a different color sticky note, or how did that go?
Well, so if you look down there, I made some comments. One of his questions was find the imposter or find which is not a penguin. So if you can look on here, it says imposter above, yay penguins, ERW. That's me. And so if you look, FAB is for head. So whales are scary. I have an intense fear of whales for head. Or FAB. So I would just have them, and I told them that part of their grade or part of the assignment was going to be they had to comment on at least one other person's, like respond to a question that they had actually posed on there, and then they could have fun little comments as well.
So any comment on someone else's page, I guess, is initialed.
That's what I had them do.
Not automatically. You'd have to tell them to.
Yes. Yeah, you would. This is not something that's done automatically.
The ones without initials are the person's own sticky notes.
Yes.
Gotcha.
You can see on Isabella's, like I commented on here, Zanice Z. Crawford and Amal did as well. And so she asked, do you think we will become forever changed by COVID like those in 1918 were? How long did it take things to go back to normal? And so this is Amal's comment, and then she has her initials at the end.
You might be able to color code it so that your own sticky notes are one color, and then
you can't. There's only 5 different colors of sticky notes.
Right.
But you can do that.
Your comments should be in this color, and everybody else, when you comment on someone else's, use whatever other color. So
Yeah.
Just a thought.
You'd have to keep those as guidelines, but I think this is great, and how neat that they were able to use so many different tools, learn how the features work, but then also, be interacting with each other. I mean, that's great.
Really nice. Yeah.
Yay. Okay. Any other questions or comments or thoughts?
I could also see this being really useful in the history department as we're having students brainstorm for things like research paper topics, or having them keep open, especially the sticky note feature or something like that, keep open and a jam that they have shared with us where we could periodically look at, I mean, in the same way that a Google Doc functions, but for like an assignment, it's like, go find 3 books and, put the images of those books on here for your research paper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just another way for students who, like, I think sometimes I think better space if I can visualize things in space, not just writing. And I think it would be helpful for some of those kids. So I really like this tool. I found it really easy to use, pretty intuitive. And the kids seem to have a lot of fun playing around with, the image aspects.
Even more fun with the auto draw too. I think it's neat as, not just the whiteboard, but as the bulletin board, with so many different objects that can be manipulated, overlaid, and then that interactive piece of being able to not just doing your work, but, interacting with others and giving feedback. So anything that you'd want to do like that, a specific task where you're going to ask students giving feedback and doing that live inside the class, it seems like it lends itself really well to that.
I love the idea, Emily, of developing paper topics using this, because I find when, especially with really younger students, maybe freshmen, that they're kind of reticent to even sometimes explain what kind of thing they're interested in. Mm-hmm. So just getting them to put down some pictures of things that they like, or might be a good way to kind of break the ice as far as getting into coming up with a topic or zeroing in.
Well, I was on a workshop this summer for our interdisciplinary course where we used a far more complicated version of this called Mural. And I feel like Jamboard is a much more scaled down, easy to use version. I really, like I said before, I think the sticky note feature is interesting. I think that there's a lot of fun, like you mentioned, Jonas, like having students pick their paper topics. Okay, put together a collage. What are some things that you're interested in? or some potential subjects. And then you can use that as a jumping off point to begin to have conversations with your students about that, or maybe ask the students to look at and evaluate one another's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that by itself, I think, would be a liberating move, so that it's not just you, the teacher, kind of being the gatekeeper, but letting them have a little independence. Strikes me as very smart and promising.
Awesome. Okay.
So,
Go ahead, Sarah. Yep. Nope. Go ahead.
so actually, I was just thinking about how to do this. So I have my Prob Chat class are going to essentially do a gallery walk with prototypes of their infographics soon. And one thing I had asked the kids, do you want to do it digitally or do you want to do it on paper? And while most of them didn't care, I just have one or two, the ones who are using iPads, who said they want to do as much digitally as possible. What I could potentially do is I could create a Jamboard with each kid's name. And then the idea is that what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to say something that they like or appreciated or found really interesting about the infographic, and then something else that they think that could be improved upon. If I just make one Jamboard with a slide for each person, right? All the kids could access the Jamboard that way. And then I could then take that as a PDF and just export it out. And then using something like Adobe, I could split it into separate PDFs.
2 stars and a wish. My wife likes to say that one. You know, with commenting and you're asking for feedback, that 2 stars and a wish is kind of, you know, sandwiching and anyway, having some positive with a critique. But you could also just have them be prepared to put the picture of their infographic on there. So that could be on the one side, and then all the feedback, you know, could go next to it perhaps.
Well, that would work out really well. I've got 2 long-term flexors, and I've been trying to figure out how I was going to get their infographics available. So yeah, I can easily do that. I mean, I kind of want, sometimes the kids don't always take really good pictures, you know, so I kind of want them to have it there in person, but at least for my 2 long-term flexors, they could picture up there. Mm-hmm. and that's how they could actually, if they all did a picture, then the long-term flexors can participate, while the on-campus students could actually still walk around and look at them.
Yep, absolutely. And there's a really nice free Google app called PhotoScan that's available for iPhone as well as Android. It takes about 5 different pictures, and if there's glare or whatever, it takes that out and it just makes one picture. So I've used that with like photo album pictures I have. It's really good. It's called PhotoScan. So you might suggest that rather than just taking a regular picture, it's doing some fancy stuff to make the image better with lighting and glare and all that kind of stuff. It's an issue sometimes with glossy pictures and stuff when you have overhead lights and whatever. But it would do a better result even of a poster or something like that than maybe just a regular.
Wes, Google Maps. Is there any way to integrate Google Maps into some sort of app like this, where you're doing a tour of a city and let's go to Lisbon or something like that and walk around and have students kind of somehow, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And this could actually, my next question is going to be, as we wrap up, what do we want to do next? So I have been with my 6th graders, and then also I did this with 5th grade. We've been using a tool called Google Tool Creator. And so as an example, this is a little tour I made of Mexico and a couple scenes. So what this lets you do is you select the places. So this is Polanco, which is the neighborhood in the DF where I lived in 92 and 93. And then here's the cathedral. And so it's using the Google Street View 360-degree imagery, and they build the tour. And so here's the Pass of Cortez, there's Popo, and there's Ixta. Actually, you can overlay your own pictures on it. So this is a picture of me in 93 on Popo with Ixta there in the background. That was fancy. My kids didn't do that part. And then this is the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan. Yeah. So yes, that particular tool is very fun, and I've just there are several different ways that you can build interactive, what I would call geomaps. That one, uses the 360-degree Google Street View panoramas, which they're not everywhere, but they have really taken them in a lot of different places. And so what I'm doing for Spanish, for 6th grade, I just introduced the tool. Actually, we did a spreadsheet activity, which they had not done spreadsheets before. And so I had created some formulas and gave them virtual $10,000, and they planned a post-COVID trip when they were over 18 to some location, and they had to, figure out their day, do their days and their hotel costs and airfare and stuff. But for Spanish, we're doing some country studies, and then we're gonna make several, and then I'm gonna have them pick their favorite, and they're gonna narrate a tour using Screencastify. Okay. So anyway, we could go a little bit more into that one if we want, or something else. So, but yeah, and I'd be happy to follow up with you about that. That's really cool. I love geography. That was one of my majors in college as an undergraduate, and pulling in, Google Maps and being able to, have relatively up-to-date imagery of these different places and having kids build associations.
Walking around, speaking of Mexico, walking around the Zócalo in the DF, talking about the Aztecs and looking at all the scars of history and all the archaeological.
Yeah, I told him some stories about the sacrifices that the Aztecs were doing there, where the cathedral's right above the old temple. That's really cool stuff.
Definitely.
Guys,
Okay.
I'm really sorry. I've got to get Gus home and feed him because I have to be back here. I don't have working internet for a call in about an hour. So whatever you guys decide, I'm cool with. But thank you so much for today.
Thanks so much for showing us that stuff. Yeah.
All right. We'll see you.
Thanks for making me getting me in here.
Sarah and Jonas, what are your preferences? You want to do something next week, or we want to go ahead and skip a week and go to our regular schedule? I'm fine either way.
Your mic.
Yeah, Sarah was saying goodbye. Sarah, you'll have to unmute.
Yeah, I was saying goodbye to Emily. Sorry.
Oh.
If we do 2 weeks, we're talking about the Thursday right before Thanksgiving break. And I don't think that's a good idea.
Why don't we do something next week, and then we'll do something after Thanksgiving?
I think that's the way to go.
Yeah,
especially since it's a little up in the air as to whether or not that Friday is even an early dismissal in the upper division. So
no, that sounds great. What about a topic? Do you all have a preferred topic? Or I could circulate a little survey to see what people wanted to do.
Let's do survey.
Okay.
Because I don't know, I off the top of my head, I can't think of what topics are left. So I'm going to defer to the.
I'll come up with 5 to 10 topics, and we'll just let you rate them, and we'll see what we want to do then. And I'll send that out tomorrow.
Sounds great.
Yeah,
all right.
I would say you don't even have to come up with 10. I think 5 is probably good.
I'll come up with 5. Not a problem.
Okay.
It's been proven that more than 4 multiple choice answers are pedagogically.
Which is actually to just bring it all back to Jamboard. I think that's part of why they've simplified it, right? Because if with too many choices, it's overwhelming. And even with Google Slides, there's so many different menu choices, so many different things. So I think that
it's like the Democrat primary.
Simplicity, you've got these colors, you've got choices, but you don't have a million choices. So they're smart. I think the Google people are smart. So all right, stopping our